Riddle me this. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The books or the BookTube channel? The answer seems obvious. It certainly did when I first started this channel, and indeed it was obvious to me until it wasn't. When I started this channel, I knew I wanted to document a very specific reading program that I had created for myself. So that I don't spend too much time describing it, let's just say there are 3 reading challenges which will take the whole year to complete. And I did not really give myself much room for flexibility. The little flexibility I do have are reserved for 1 reread a month, maybe fewer, and 1 TBR rescue a month. Again, depending on how things go, maybe fewer. How can you get fewer than 1? But again, it seemed obvious to me that the reading came first and the documentation of the reading would come later. Then a few weeks ago, I was at the Philippine Book Festival, neck deep in books that did not seem like they would be a good fit for my year, and therefore did not seem like anything I would ever feature on this channel. And although I wanted them, I hesitated when it came to getting them. And it was a pretty uncomfortable instance of the channel coming first and the books coming second, or maybe not even coming at all. I did eventually get them, but that was only because I forcibly reminded myself that I am a reader first and a content creator second, maybe not even second, if you look at my life, 5th, a content creator 5th. And if I wanted to read books, then I should read them, even if I would never talk about them on this channel. So I got them. And now, because being ironic is really fun, I'm going to talk about them on the channel anyway. The first is actually a book that had a good chance of being featured on this channel, though maybe not this year. I'm talking about Killing Time in a Warm Place by Jose Dalisay, a novel based on Dalisay's experience as a student activist in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And if you're not aware of the historical context, that means it was his experience not just of protesting and, well, trying to spread the doctrine of communism, but also his experience of being illegally arrested, detained, and tortured by the police. And this book is actually the reason I was even at the book festival. A friend of mine told me that Dalisay would be there and was signing books. And I thought, yes, I'm going. And this is my old copy, which I wanted him to sign. And it wasn't clear whether he would be signing old books or you had to make a purchase. And I spent so much time worrying about that and trying to be tactful. Like if a book purchase was required, then okay, I would buy the book, but then I would say, could you sign this old one instead? Because it's the one I have, a sentimental experience with. I spent so much time worrying about that when I finally was standing in front of him, and he was very nice, by the way. He was totally open to signing whatever you brought him. I had nothing to say. And yeah, my mind just went blank. I wanted to tell him why I liked his book and why it had been meaningful to me and why I had wanted to be there at the festival so that he could sign it. And every idea just floated out of my brain. If I ever do see him again, what I will say is that, and I'm purposely being vague here, in case you don't want spoilers. The scene in which one of the characters has a chance to escape the police who have been abusing him and others decides not to escape. He goes back to that detention center. Why does he make that choice? Pretty interesting. And in case that has intrigued you and you want to know a little more, I would say that one of the themes of this book, and the one which I remember best and which I tell others about when they ask me what Killing Time in a Warm Place is about, is the theme of so-called selling out. This is the story of young students, but it's told by the author reflecting back on those days as someone who is middle-aged and settled in life. And sometimes the things we are most passionate about when we are younger stop being so important when we are older. And it's not even about selling out. Sometimes it's just about growing up. Sometimes it's just about realizing that you have naturally acquired other priorities. Sometimes it's about falling out of love with something you thought you would be passionate about forever. Time changes us, whether we want it to or not. And I said that to a young friend of mine who was a student at the time he asked about it. And that's actually the friend who told me Dalisay would be at the festival. And he happened to be, close to a student activist. And he happened to be in the university that was Dalisay's alma mater. And when I said that, he did not like that. He did not like the thought that someday he would not be as passionate about the causes he currently still is passionate about. But we'll see. And now that I think about it, I'm kind of upset I don't have room in my schedule for Killing Time in a Warm Place, because I have a video essay ready to go if I'm willing to script it. And now for one of the books that I almost didn't get because I didn't think I would be able to talk about it on this channel. And that is Ang Sekretong Alias ni Lola Nene, which I would translate as the secret alias of Lola Nene, and Lola means grandma. And I was attracted to this book because it's about a schoolgirl who discovers that her grandmother had been a guerrilla fighter in World War II when the Philippines was occupied by Japan. And it reminded me very much of my own grandmother's memories of World War II. She was a little younger than Lola Nene, so she couldn't also be a guerrilla fighter or any sort of fighter. But hearing her talk about that time was a core memory of my own childhood. And there was a quality to it that I have not found in historicals. It may only be available in oral history, but this book is based very much on oral history. The author, Gatmaitan, was there, and he was also autographing books. You can bet I got this autographed. The illustrator, Danny Go, was also autographing books. And when it was my turn to have my book signed, it was such a nice experience talking with Dr. Gatmaitan. He was pretty eager to talk about the experience of doing research for this book and writing it. And when I told him my grandmother's memory, he was really delighted. I'll bet that if I had told him that when he was doing research, he would have put it in the book, like if it would have fit. He admitted that this was based on, again, oral history, talking to people who had experienced it or people whose grandparents had experienced it and who carried the memories with them. So I do have high hopes for this. And the reason I didn't think it would be a good fit for the channel is that a very limited audience can read it. It is not available in English. And since it's so new, it's not available in any other languages except Filipino. Luis Gatmaitan has been translated into other languages, but so far, English is not one of them. After I read this, I will let you know whether that's a bigger shame than I currently feel it is. And then there's another book in Filipino, Drew at ang Kwento ng Limang Kaharian by Clara. I would translate the title as Drew and the Legend of the Five Kingdoms. And although this was in Filipino, I got it because of this, Aklat ng Salin. That means it's translated. And I asked the staff at the booth what language it was either translated into or translated from, and they said English. I thought, excellent. And it also happens to have a butterfly on the cover, which means that it would be a good fit for the Candy Reading Challenge book for May, which is to read a book with an insect on the cover. That's a harder prompt than it sounds. Insects are rare. I got it for the butterfly. I got it because I thought there was an English version available, which meant that if I talked about it and other people wanted to read it, it would be relatively easy for them to enjoy it as well. And then I got home, did my research on it, looking for the English title, and I found there was not one, which is why I translated the title instead of telling you what it is in English. It was originally written in Bahasa Indonesian and has no English translation yet. And all I could think was, this means Women in Translation Month is going to be interesting for me. So I won't be reading this for May. I will be reading this in August. And if I like it so much that I do end up making another video about it, then I hope that will be the start of generating enough interest so that it is translated into even more languages. Having said all of that, there was another book at the Philippine Book Festival which also had an insect on its cover, multiple examples of that insect actually, and it was in English. And I thought, okay, I still will have a book for May for the Candy Reading Challenge. So what does come first, the books or the BookTube channel? So far, the books are still winning, and I hope they will continue to come out on top for the rest of the year. But it was also interesting to see how less than 3 months of content creation on books changed the way I approached books in a completely offline area of my life. A lot has been said about how we influence others by creating this content, but this was one instance of me influencing myself, and not in a great way. And so an instance of me having to de-influence myself from my own content creation. It was a bit weird, a bit meta, but as I said, interesting. And if you are also a creator on BookTube, I would love to hear about your own experience. Has BookTube affected the way you read, the way you buy books? Has it affected other areas of your life that you would have said were completely offline? Please let me know. I may not be able to read every book, but I do read every comment.